Welcome to another Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of Transportation Tuesday. And we got some news to talk about today. And the theme for today is cost. It is getting more and more expensive to travel. And not just by road. We got tolls popping up all over the country. And the most common of these tolls that we typically see are the express lanes that most of you probably are familiar with now if you live in any major metro area in the United States. But right here in Colorado, we have an example of express lanes done wrong. You might as well call them extortion lanes from what is going on out here. So we'll take a look at that as well. But without further ado, let's get into it. And first we are going down to Tennessee, where we have the choice lanes. Is what they call their express lanes. Let's take a look. I made a community post about this yesterday to get some of you guys' thoughts on it, but today we're going to talk about it a little bit more. Let's see what the local news has to say about it first.
Something to think about. Would you pay money to beat traffic? Some people are worried about choice lanes in Tennessee.
The lanes basically TDOT's response to what it thinks will help reduce the amount of traffic on our roads across the state, and that amount of traffic is just going to keep growing.
Our Will Puckett is taking a look at this report for us tonight. Well, this report is from the area near Nashville, and they actually were the first to get these lanes.
Yeah, Nashville to Murfreesboro, nearly 24-mile stretch, the first area to get the choice lanes in Tennessee. If you've ever traveled, say, in Virginia or just outside of Atlanta, the choice lanes are paid lanes that folks can use to bypass traffic along the interstate. TDOT, Tennessee Department of Transportation, plans to do these lanes in sections starting in Middle Tennessee first. But here in Knoxville, the stretch of interstate that would see the choice lane is from 40 downtown to the Knox-Loudoun County line. Those will be the lanes when they finally get to East Tennessee. We're talking maybe a decade until this happens. TDOT received 516 public comments sent.
All right, so despite the fancy name that Tennessee used, just because I guess they want to be different, these choice lanes are basically, if you're in another state, these are what you usually see called express lanes. And they are lanes basically where you can pay a toll to get into a lane that's supposed to get you through traffic a little faster. Now, this is new for Tennessee because Tennessee is one of the states that previously had no tolls on any of their roads. So, as you can guess, there's probably a lot of controversy surrounding this, bringing tolls to residents who are used to driving for free, if you will. All right, let's continue with the video.
On the Middle Tennessee plan, we're getting a look at some of people's biggest worries. Say, how the state and the contractor are going to find the land to build these lanes. What's that going to look like? Are people going to lose property? Also, using already existing public transit on these lanes. If, say, CAT wanted to use the choice lanes, would it cost them more money to do so? TDOT says no, it wouldn't. Funding of the lanes, making sure everyone can use them, of course, for the right price, but not pricing people out of this ability. Also, the impact of construction. Will doing this construction make even bigger headaches on the interstate? And also the design. What's it going to look like? And also, how will it account for any further growth? Also, how can emergency vehicles access the lane? Drivers, should they have to reroute? How can they get off? TDOT's Assistant Chief Engineer saying that feedback is critical.
The biggest takeaway for me from those was that a lot of folks came in with some preconceptions about what we were trying to accomplish, and they left with good information, and we were able to answer a lot of their concerns.
So TDOT says, adding they were able to answer a lot of questions people had about that program. 2026, the likely start date for choice lanes being built in Middle Tennessee. Again, no timetable on when we could see them here in East Tennessee.
All right, let me go back to that section where they had these questions. So, most likely there are going to be some right-of-way acquisition to get these because you have to widen the footprint of the roadway to build these lanes, obviously. As far as public transit goes, what I see in most states, they do allow buses to use these for free. So that's probably going to be the case here. And price-wise, Tennessee says they're going to, so you have express lanes, it can go one of two ways. You have some places where express lanes are used to make money. And you have some places where express lanes are used to better control and improve traffic flow. Tennessee does claim that these are not about making money, so they're going to be priced in order to manage traffic better. So we'll see about that. And usually also first responders are allowed to use the lanes for free as well. Let me take a look at the Choice Lanes website that I sent yesterday real quick. And they're telling you why express lanes are so good and have reduced travel times and improved traffic flow and support transit reliability. Okay, here's what we want to see. Here's some of the places that the folks in Tennessee can expect these lanes. You see right here, they got them for Nashville on Interstate 65, south in the city. This looks like it's going down through that Brentwood area. And what's the other city? Franklin. So you guys are going to get them. And this, they were talking about Interstate 24 between Nashville and Chattanooga, which is a very rapidly growing corridor. It looks like 75 to 24 in Chattanooga will be getting them. And then I-40, that's the I-40, I-75 concurrency in Knoxville. So there you go. Tolls are coming to Tennessee. So get ready. And we got another fee coming to help fund road construction and maintenance. And this time it's in Indiana. Let's take a look here.
Hoosiers are already well aware of Riverlink tolls on the bridges from Louisville to Indiana, and more of these are being considered throughout the state to make up for a $1 billion shortfall in funding for roads.
You would be hard-pressed
I stay away from the tolls.
to find anyone
You gotta go easy on us, no tolls.
asking for more tolls.
Oh, it's just another expense. It's another bill you gotta pay on top of everything else.
But unfortunately for Hoosiers and anyone driving through Indiana, more tolls could begin appearing across the state.
Our shortfall at the state level is going to be about $1 billion short.
Jeffersonville State Rep Wendy Dant Chesser just voted yes on a bill that passed the House aimed at combating that shortfall. Among other things, the measure would allow the Indiana Department of Transportation to ask the federal government for permission to add tolls on interstates.
I have yet to come across a single person in Indiana or any other state that asks to pay more for using roads. The question, though, is when we have those complaints about construction or lack of construction, potholes, congestion, we have to address that as well.
Hoosiers faced a similar issue years ago, and lawmakers passed a bill in 2017 that gave the governor the power to ask for tolls. But that hasn't happened. This year's bill would make it easier to toll interstates, removing a requirement that the first toll lanes must be 75 miles from current tolls. In theory, at least, that means roads in our area, like I-65 and I-64, could be on the table for more tolls.
To have that and then say, oh, we're out of money again, I think we need to look and see more closely where the money is, how it's being spent, and how the projects are determined before we say tolling's our only option.
All right, guys, so what they're talking about in Indiana is they're actually talking about tolling existing interstates. Now, when it comes to federal regulations, if you add a lane, a new lane can be a toll lane, so you'll see the express lanes across different interstates around the country. But as far as tolling existing free lanes that were built with taxpayer money, things get a little more complicated because you actually need approval from Congress directly in order to toll an existing interstate. So what they're saying here is that they have given the governor permission to ask Congress for permission to toll existing interstates in Indiana.
Langston is the president of the Indiana Motor Truck Association and says he'd be surprised if any decisions on the future of tolling come from this session.
I think this is more a focus on analyzing and putting tools in place if that's what is determined necessary.
Like it or not, more tolls could be on the table, and the money has to come from somewhere.
This day and time, whatever they need to do it.
We reached out to Governor Mike Braun about the possibility of adding tolls, especially here in our area, but haven't heard back yet. This bill still needs to pass the Senate, and I'm told that's unlikely without some changes.
Yeah, guys, I don't see this happening. It's possible. I don't see this happening just because most politicians are afraid of the type of backlash that would happen if they tolled an existing interstate. And I think I mentioned it on a video before, but what politicians care about the most is staying in power. And a good way to get voted out of office in most of America is to toll an existing free interstate. But we'll see what happens. And that's not the only thing. Indiana is looking for yet another way to fund road building and maintenance in their state. Let's take a look at this idea. Now, this one's an interesting one.
Well, Indiana will need up to $2.5 billion every year for the next 10 years just to maintain roads and bridges. And that does not even include larger state products.
It's a big chunk of cash. One solution could leave you paying for it with your next takeout order. CBS 4 State House reporter Hannah Adamson explains.
The author of the latest omnibus road funding bill called it, quote, a buffet of options, hoping it will give cities and communities more choices as to how they want to increase road funding dollars. And while most constituents at its latest hearing seem to support the majority of the bill, there was one part in particular they hope will be reconsidered.
You really are picking winners and losers.
Monday, several Hoosiers spoke out against a provision in a House bill that would allow counties to adopt a retail delivery fee, with some calling it a veiled tax increase.
We just don't think it's the right time to impose another fee.
This would also be another blow for everyone, consumers and businesses alike, that are currently struggling with inflationary pressures.
If passed, the fee would apply to delivery and rideshare transactions. Counties could choose an amount between 50 cents to $1.
A $1 or even a 50-cent delivery or rideshare tax could be devastating for your fixed, low-income, and disabled constituents.
That township.
All right, so what they're proposing here is allowing an added surcharge onto your Uber and your DoorDash deliveries in order to help pay for the roads and the maintenance. I haven't seen this one before. Very interesting take. But let's continue with the video. Let's see what else they're talking about with this one.
Taxpayer sees the benefit of their tax dollars at work.
The bill's author, State Representative Jim Pressel, says Indiana will need up to $25 billion over the next decade to maintain local roads and bridges.
The local option to allow them to vet out, is this something that we want to do here locally? So nobody's saying you have to do this. It would be a tool that could be implemented if they see the need.
Indianapolis has nearly 84.
So it sounds like it's not going to be a mandatory statewide thing, but he's saying it's going to give different counties the option to add this fee on top of your delivery orders to help pay for the roads.
Lane miles of roads.
Indianapolis Chief Deputy Mayor Dan Parker says it's unclear if the city would adopt such a measure should the bill pass as is, but testified in support of the bill as a whole.
We believe that road funding should be allocated based on the amount of traffic you have. There's a tremendous need in Indianapolis for more road funding. Without a bill like this, you can't even have the debate.
The bill will receive its next reading on Monday.
All right, so you're probably wondering, why are so many states coming up with all these new tolls, new fees, new taxes, trying to pay for the roads? Well, for that, I place the blame on Congress themselves. Now, everybody will say, well, I'm paying gas tax. Well, the truth is that Congress has been afraid to raise the gas tax for over 32 years. And of course, inflation is a thing, especially here in the last 5 to 8 years or so. And our gas tax is still based on $1993. Not only that, vehicles have gotten a lot more fuel efficient. So you get hit with a double whammy of a decrease in revenue for funding road construction and road maintenance. So since Congress has dropped the ball, neglecting their responsibility to raise the gas tax, what you're getting now is more user fees. So basically, Congress doesn't want the backlash that will come with raising the gas tax, so they're putting the onus on the states to figure out how to fund their roads, and they basically have no other option but to go to different types of user fees. So here in America, I don't see it changing anytime soon, because no party in Congress wants to be the one to be blamed with raising people's cost of living by raising the cost of gas. But I have to admit that adding a surcharge onto delivery orders is probably the most unique way of funding roads that I've seen so far in a while. Now, me personally, I have no issue with express lanes or tolls as long as they're done right. Now, for an example of how express lanes are done wrong, we have an example right here in none other than Colorado in the Denver area, where people are getting hit hard for these toll express lanes. Let me show you what I mean.
Welcome into another edition of Steve on Your Side on 9 News Plus. I'm 9 News consumer investigator Steve Stager, alongside consumer producer Anna Houston. We're on I-25, everybody's favorite highway, and we're heading onto C-470, which, if you haven't been on C-470 in a while, you may not know that there's a toll lane there. It's been there for a few years. What really started piquing our interest in the toll lanes are these tickets that people have started to get for weaving in and out of the double white lines into the toll lane. We're actually entering what we've found through our research. You want to go this way? Yep.
Okay.
And then see how confusing this is, because on one side you don't take the toll lane. So if you were to stay in the right lane, you don't take the toll lane. On the other side you do.
So I take it here?
Take it here,
Ooh,
yep.
Okay,
Ooh,
wow,
ooh.
that was a fast little
Almost got a
entrance there.
ticket. That would be quite an expense report. Oh, there's a little camera that tracks.
The first thing that's marking that we are entering the express lane.
Yep. And that camera is actually tracking to see. It now has a picture of your car in the toll lane, and we're going to come upon another camera. Because see, now we're getting over. There's double white lines here. We're going to come upon another one of these cameras. In fact, they're over there. They're on the other side of the road. They'll snap a picture of your car. And if you're outside the toll lane, you get a $75 ticket. So we started getting all these emails about this and people saying, like, this seems like a really high fine. I was curious how many tickets the state had written. They started the program late in 2023. And the number that we found in 9 months was huge.
The rules of the road seemed clear to Lisa Reif.
They've said over and over again, you can't cross a double solid line. So I know I don't do that. Never, ever, ever do that.
The state has been warning since last summer that if you cross those double white lines into a toll lane, the computer catches you and they'll slap you with a $75 fine. Lisa knew that, says she purposely didn't do it and still opened her mail to find a fine.
And I was like, absolutely shocked.
Actually, multiple fines. The notice said between November and February, Lisa had illegally crossed into the toll lane on C-470 8 separate times. At $75 per violation, that meant she owed $600. Wow. Her dash cam shows some of what happened. Instead of crossing a double white line, Lisa crossed a dashed line, essentially entering the toll lane at an exit.
I think it's highway. All right, let me show you the area they're talking about on Google Maps real quick. Let's go to Denver. So we're talking about right down here in this Highland Ranch suburban area. And this is the highway right here, C-470. All right, let's go back to the video.
Hans Gebhardt says both he and his wife got tickets for violating the toll rules on I-25, rules they didn't realize existed either.
The bill came several months later, so I was like, what's this? It just seems like a way to generate money. And apparently they've generated a lot of money.
This new fine is generating money. Between October, when the state started issuing fines, and this month, Steve on Your Side found Colorado wrote tickets for more than $40 million in fines. More than $40 million in fines assessed in 9 months.
If you run with a $40 million figure out there, I think that would be highly misleading.
Though Tim Hoover with the Colorado Transportation Investment Office doesn't want you to focus on that $40 million number.
There's going to be tickets that we can't collect. And also remember, it can take a while to even collect stuff that we can collect.
He says the state has only been able to collect about 2/3 of it. And at the end of the day, after paying the company that runs the cameras and other costs, they've only netted a little over $16 million. You might be asking what the state might do with $16 million it didn't have before.
Safety improvements, so you're talking about striping improvements, signage improvements, guardrail.
And he says they'll use it to educate the public so they know how to avoid those fines through things like TV ads.
Sounds like that outreach can be expensive.
It is with what you guys charge.
I'm not going to comment on what 9 News charges for ads because there's like a wall between the sales department and the news department. We have no idea. But that outreach is really important because for a long time this was communicated, don't cross the double white line. Right? That's what we heard over and over and over again.
That's what the signs say.
Yeah, and we're in the lane right now. You can see the double white line on our right.
Oh, wait, so I have to be over.
You got to be over, see? But this is where it gets really confusing because people were crossing this single white line here and crossing over that dotted white line and entering into the toll lane
and they were getting a ticket.
I agree
All right, so
with
this
the
is,
nature.
This is the issue. I'll show you guys on Google Maps. Let's go over here. So typically when you see, look at this lane here. Let's go further back. So typically when you see express lanes, you'll see a double solid white line, right? And everyone knows that you can't cross the double white line. Like that's, common sense. Everyone knows that. Where it gets confusing out here with the way they're done in Colorado is, let's go back here where you can enter the express lane. So where you can enter, you see it becomes a dash line right here, and it's a single white line. So basically what people are thinking is that they're allowed to cross a single solid line and go into the express lane. So any crossing between here or any crossing over this line right here is getting you that $75 ticket in Colorado, right? So it can be very confusing because all the signage says don't cross the double white line. It says nothing about the single white line. And typically a single white line is mostly used in construction areas to show the new markings when a road is being modified for construction. And you can cross those single white lines in construction areas. So most people are probably thinking, yeah, I can cross the single white line. And you see it becomes a double white line again up here, and most people know they can't cross this. But if you cross this single white line at any point, you're still going to get hit with the $75. Now, is that a design flaw or is that a revenue raiser? Let's go back to the video.
Of this weaving law.
Brian Malone hates it when people weave in and out of toll lanes.
I think they should be torpedoed and blasted and vaporized immediately.
Yet he feels like he's been torpedoed over something that's tough to understand.
I'm confused and a little frustrated when I thought that I had been obeying the laws.
At first, Malone thought he slipped.
And I just paid it because I thought, oh, I must have made a mistake. But then I got a second citation and then a third citation right after that.
He crossed into the express lane here on eastbound C470 near Lucin. Each time he did, he got slapped with a ticket.
There needs to be some leeway and a grace period and maybe some more adequate signing, maybe color coding.
Here's why so many people are confused. This spot at Lucin is an exit and has a dotted line on the outside, which would seem to invite traffic to enter. But when they cross that single solid line, poof, a $75 ticket. Yep. Steve on your side was the first to report the state issued more than $40 million in fines in the first 9 months of enforcement. 4.5% of all Colorado license plates have gotten a toll weaving ticket. Our data shows more than 10,000 drivers have been ticketed at Lucin alone.
Just given the press around, how many violations we've assessed, what we've collected, especially in the 9 News story.
Our story made it to the appointed board of Colorado's Transportation Investment Office.
I've heard from a number of people that there's a confusion about when you can enter and when you can exit.
They talked about that confusion.
It's a little confusing that we say cross the line, meaning, everybody knows double line, but cross any line really, right?
Yeah. Some of these things are more nuanced and don't make a snappy slogan.
At the meeting, engineers talked about potential changes, including allowing people to enter at Lucin, the same spot where Malone got his tickets. Tickets he's tried to dispute with no luck.
Penalizing people with expensive after-the-fact citations and then giving them no kind of recourse to be able to plead their case with any kind of two-way conversation, I don't believe is the correct solution.
All right, eastbound.
All right, guys, I want to show you something. Well, let's go back to this. So I've been all over the country and I've never seen, well, I won't say never, but I rarely see express lane entrances and exits designed like this. So it's one of two things. Either one, this is one of those cases where the engineers who designed this, it sounded good on paper and it just doesn't work in practice, which can't happen often. Often things that sound good on paper, when you actually put them out there into the world, they don't necessarily work. So it could be that, not ruling that out. But the more likely scenario is that this is designed to extract additional revenue. So typically when I see express lanes, they're designed more like these. Let me go over to Charlotte and show you how they do it. So here's Interstate 77, and they built those controversial express lanes here. And you see here in Charlotte, there's your double white line with your express lanes right here. And everyone knows not to cross the double white line, right? Now where you can enter or exit the express lanes, you see how all the lines become dotted. So you can weave in or out of the express lanes in this area. There's no confusion. Everyone knows, okay, I can get out of the express lanes here, or I can get into them here. But once the double white lines come back, let's see, here, once the lines come back, if I cross the line at this point, then I'm going to get a fee. The ones in Colorado aren't designed like this. This is what you'll normally see in most cities. So the ones in Colorado are designed uniquely different. And that's why I say it's more likely that these are for generating revenue than for improving traffic flow. And what's the solution? I mean, it's not complicated. Just get rid of this single white line altogether and make it a double dash white line on the places where you can enter or exit the express lanes. It's pretty simple. Just do what every other city does. Now I'm gonna play this whole video. It's pretty long, but let's see what else they had to say before we close it out.
Getting on eastbound C470. We were hearing from a ton of people who are very confused about this, right? We're getting on from Santa Fe, you're going over the flyover, and people thought they can go right into the express lane, at the first opportunity. Problem is, there's not an entrance to this express lane for quite a while.
There's just exits.
Only exits. But when you look at those exits, they are marked on the outside with a dotted white line. A whole lane later, like a lane over, is the single white line. Okay, so we're entering 470.
Traffic's slowing down, so I'm thinking, kind of want to get in the express lane.
By the way, in the stories that we've done on this in the past, we've called this Lucent. It is now Kendrick Castillo Way, named after Kendrick Castillo, who lost his life in the STEM school shooting. Okay, so we're getting over, and see it's all double white lines, and look at the way this lane looks.
So
You've got to,
you
think you could do this, right?
And cross over this line and then cut in.
Yep.
But it's an exit only, and if I go across that line, we're going to get a ticket.
Yep.
Which we cannot afford.
And 9 News is not approved for us to do that.
People are crossing a single white line.
Right.
And then wondering why they're getting a ticket for crossing a double white line.
Because it feels like they're going into an entrance, right? You've got a dotted white line and then that single white line, and they think, oh, I'm fine, I'll be okay. But a lot of people were getting that ticket and saying, I don't understand it. Then they go to try to dispute that ticket, and they're met with this really frustrating process. Then they get the denial. Then they reach out to Steve on Your Side. In one case, we didn't get a solution, but the other case we did.
Saw a dotted line and thought she could cross over it to get into the express toll.
Stop me if you've heard this one before. Jacob Golter says his wife got a $75 fine along C470 for entering the toll lane in an exit near Lucent. The exit marked with a dotted line on the outside that many drivers tell Steve on Your Side confused the heck out of them.
She drives that road very frequently. She knows the layout. We had never known that you couldn't go in that lane.
When Jacob got that ticket, he tried to dispute.
I will say another solution or way to fix this that I've seen in other places are just have the orange cones on the lanes where you don't want people crossing. Now, in some places you'll have people diving in and out anyway, and those people deserve a ticket. But normal drivers, when they see the orange cones, they won't cross those lanes. So
She basically said, well, that's just, it is what it is, and you got to pay it, otherwise you pay additional fines.
We were on our way to view our wedding venue.
Allie Groff had a heck of a time disputing her toll weaving ticket, too.
There was an emergency vehicle merging traffic out with the arrows on the back. All they kept saying was that they didn't have a record of it. They didn't have any record of a vehicle being in the express lane that day.
You had a record.
Yeah, exactly.
See, Allie was almost burned by a toll weaving ticket before.
I had gotten a ticket when it was like snowpack.
In the photo attached to that ticket, you can't even see the lines.
So I disputed it by taking a screenshot off my phone and resubmitting it to them, and then they dismissed it.
So this time, she pulled out her phone and snapped a picture of that emergency vehicle blocking the lane.
Anybody listening when you say, hey, I have photo proof something was wrong?
No, they kind of just brushed it off.
38,000 drivers have tried what Allie and Jacob did. They've disputed their tickets through the Colorado Transportation Investment Office's website. Steve on Your Side got our hands on data showing about 8,000 drivers have had their tickets dismissed, about 22%. Why is it so difficult to dispute?
They're able to choose from a list of reasons why.
At a recent meeting of the CTIO board, they say they're bound by law. State law says there are technically only 4 reasons they can rip up your ticket. You sold the car before it crossed the line, the car was stolen before it crossed the line, you went bankrupt, or you died. The website does list an other option, but
those are the ones that are the most likely to be denied because they don't fall within those reasons that we are allowed to.
Thank you.
I felt like we were just being sent in circles and being backed into a corner.
CTIO told us they keep a record.
See, that shouldn't be the case. A driver shouldn't have to take a picture just to prove that they didn't cross the line. So this is poor. That's on the state.
Crashes and debris, things that might make weaving in and out of toll lanes necessary. But remember, they told Allie they had no record of that truck, clearly in her photo.
And then I reached out to you guys and I told the CTI program that.
She says after mentioning talking to Steve on Your Side, all of a sudden that $75 fine just disappeared.
It is frustrating.
How about that? All right, we're going to stop it there. I'm not going to go through the whole video. It's pretty long. Shout out to Steve on Your Side for exposing the shady practices going on here in Colorado. Fortunately, I rarely go down to that part of the city. I'm usually on Interstate 25. But wow. Yeah, that shouldn't be the case though. And this is why some people don't like express lanes, because you have shady things like this going on where they're trying to extract revenue from people rather than just managing traffic. Driver beware if you're on C470. All right, and finally, I got one last story about another place where things are getting more expensive, but not this time. It's not about driving. This time it's about flying. Transportation is just getting more expensive all around, guys. Let's check it out.
Back into that breaking news that we brought you off the top of the show, and that is the news from Southwest Airlines.
That's right. Southwest Airlines is ending its policy of bags flying free for every passenger. So Ashley Moss has been following these changes all morning long from our assignment desk in the newsroom. And Ashley, what do we know so far about this morning? This is a big change. It's going to affect a lot of passengers. Might be upset about this.
It's a huge change. It's not taking effect for several more weeks in May, but we reported on this back in September when the CEO, Bob Jordan, told us that bags would remain free, and they knew it was a priority along with fares and scheduling. Let's take a look at what this means. This is certainly a pinch in the Southwest effect, high quality at a lower cost the airline has been known for. With this change, only Southwest's most elite Rapid Rewards A-list preferred members, it's a mouthful, passengers who book their top tier business select fares will receive 2 free checked bags. Frequent flyer A-list members, Southwest branded credit card holders, other select customers to be determined will be allowed 1 checked bag. Everyone else will be charged for bags for 1 and 2 for flights booked on or after May 28. Now, we're still waiting for some confirmation on exactly what that cost would be, but I want to turn it over to Bo Evans right now. He's live from Left Field Airport. Bo, with more information from the company.
Yeah, Ashley, this is a major change for the company. It's not just a break with their 54-year history. Like you said, it's a break with what CEO Bob Jordan told us just last September. Now, Jordan said in a
So before Bo finishes up here, That's right, guys. Southwest used to be known for their free checked bag to kind of differentiate themselves from other airlines. But now they are pretty much coming in line because it's all about profit at the end of the day. So no more free checked bags on Southwest.
Today, we have tremendous opportunity to meet current and future customer needs, attract new customer segments we don't compete for today, and return to the levels of profitability that both we and our shareholders expect.
All right, so there's the corporate speak from the CEO. Basically, he said we need the profits that our shareholders want, so we're going to pass that cost down to you, the consumer. So not only is it getting more expensive to fly, not only is it getting more expensive to drive, it's getting more expensive to fly as well around America. All right, guys, and that is it for today. The prices are going up all across the board. The biggest thing with these tolls that are popping up everywhere, these new proposals and adding fees to Uber Eats in order to pay for roads, are because your Congress does not want to raise the gas tax, and they would rather another way to fund the roads. So you better get used to more user fees, because that's what's going to be happening, especially with the EVs on the road. You got the hybrids, and even your regular cars are now getting more miles per gallon than they ever did 30 years ago. So things are getting more expensive. And then as far as the airlines go, I think you guys know how I feel about airlines. So just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it just did. Maybe Brightline can save us. But that's all for that, and I'll see you next time for another episode of Transportation Tuesday as we talk about transportation news around the country. Let me know what you think about these developments down in the comments, and I will see you next time.